Pancreatic cancer has climbed to become the third leading cause of cancer death in the United States, and what you eat may play a role. An estimated 67,530 Americans will receive a diagnosis in 2026 alone, and more than 52,000 will not survive it. 13%. That is the 5-year survival rate, and it has barely moved, making this the deadliest of all major cancers. What catches most people off guard is who this disease targets. Nearly 2/3 of patients are 65 or older at the time of diagnosis, and the median age sits right at 71. If you are watching this channel, that number should get your attention. You have probably come across headlines warning that reheating certain foods can raise your risk of pancreatic cancer. Real science backs up parts of that claim, but a lot of what circulates online stretches the evidence well past the breaking point. So today we are going to walk through 5 reheated foods that doctors and researchers have flagged, examine the actual data behind each one, and draw a clear line between what has been proven and what remains under investigation. When it comes to cancer prevention, the truth does more for you than a scary headline ever will. We will start with a quick look at why this particular cancer is so feared, and then work through each food one by one. Most cancers get caught early often enough to give patients a fighting chance. Pancreatic cancer does not follow that pattern. According to the National Cancer Institute, only 14.6% of cases are detected while still localized. When doctors find it early, survival jumps to 43.6% over 5 years, which is a completely different outcome. But most cases have already spread, and that changes everything. The known risk factors paint a clear picture. Smoking roughly doubles your risk and accounts for an estimated 25% of all cases, according to the American Cancer Society. Severe obesity, meaning a BMI above 35, carries a 62% increased risk. Type 2 diabetes approximately doubles the risk too, and about 10% of cases trace back to inherited gene mutations like BRCA1, BRCA2, and KRAS mutations, which appear in over 90% of pancreatic cancers, along with a handful of others. Here is where the diet conversation gets complicated. The World Cancer Research Fund conducts the most thorough reviews of diet and cancer evidence anywhere in the world, and their 2018 third expert report reached a conclusion that surprises most people. Body fatness is the only convincing dietary-related cause of pancreatic cancer. Not a specific food, not a cooking method, not reheating. Body fatness alone earned that highest confidence rating, while everything else, including red meat, processed meat, and alcohol, landed in the weaker category of limited or suggestive evidence. A 2023 umbrella review published in Advances in Nutrition reinforced that finding. Researchers analyzed 41 meta-analyses covering 59 pooled risk estimates, and the results stopped people in their tracks. Not one dietary association with pancreatic cancer reached the level of convincing or highly suggestive evidence. 54 out of 59 associations tested came back not statistically significant. None of that means food choices are irrelevant. What it tells us is that we have to be precise about what the science actually supports. And that precision is exactly what we are bringing to each of these 5 reheated foods over the next 15 minutes. We will start with a quick look at why this particular cancer is so feared, and then work through each food one by one. Of everything on this list, reused cooking oil carries the most alarming laboratory evidence. Heating oil to between 170 and 220 degrees Celsius, and then using it again triggers a chain of chemical breakdowns, including hydrolysis, oxidation, and polymerization. What remains in that oil is a mix of polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, aldehydes like acrolein and melandialdehyde, trans fatty acids, and lipid peroxides. One study measured polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons in deep-fried peanut oil after just 45 minutes of heating and found levels more than 9 times higher than what the European Union considers acceptable. 45 minutes and the oil already exceeded safety limits by that margin. 2 compounds deserve special attention. Acrolein, a breakdown product of heated fats, earned a Group 2A classification from the International Agency for Research on Cancer, which translates to probably carcinogenic to humans. Laboratory work shows it damages DNA and cripples multiple DNA repair pathways. A 2024 pilot study from Moffitt Cancer Center, published in the Journal of Gastrointestinal Cancer, detected significantly elevated acrolein levels in the urine of pancreatic cancer patients compared to healthy controls. Benzoapyrene sits one level higher on that danger scale, classified as Group 1, meaning the evidence for causing cancer in humans is considered sufficient. Overheated oils generate this compound, and research from the Medical University of South Carolina confirmed it activates cancer-related signaling pathways specifically in human pancreatic cells. The most widely cited animal study on reused cooking oil came from the University of Illinois, where mice fed thermally abused soybean oil developed 4 times greater metastatic tumor growth and twice as many lung metastases. But here is the thing. That study tracked breast cancer metastasis, not pancreatic cancer. No human study has drawn a direct line between reheated cooking oil and pancreatic cancer risk. What you should take away from this is practical. No official FDA limit exists on oil reuse, but the food science consensus lands at 3 to 5 reuses for light frying, maximum. Throw it out when it turns dark, starts foaming, smokes at temperatures below frying range, or smells off. Oils high in polyunsaturated fats, corn oil and sunflower oil for example, degrade faster than monounsaturated options like olive oil and canola oil. Section 3, Food Number 2, Reheated Processed Meats. Out of everything on this list, processed meat carries the strongest epidemiological connection to pancreatic cancer. Bacon, hot dogs, sausages, deli meat slices, and anything preserved through curing, smoking, salting, or chemical additives all fall into this category. The World Health Organization classifies processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen, the same tier as tobacco and asbestos. Before that alarms you, understand what the classification means. Group 1 tells you the evidence is strong that it can cause cancer. It does not tell you the risk is equal. Harvard nutrition researchers have spelled this out clearly. Smoking increases lung cancer risk by about 2,000%, while processed meat raises colorectal cancer risk by roughly 18% per 50 grams consumed each day. For pancreatic cancer specifically, the WHO flags limited evidence. But some of the individual findings deserve attention. Over 190,000 participants took part in the multi-ethnic cohort study, and those eating the most processed meat faced a 68% increased risk of pancreatic cancer compared to those eating the least. A separate dose-response meta-analysis published in the British Journal of Cancer, covering more than 6,600 cases, tied each additional 50 grams of daily processed meat to a 19% higher risk. What makes reheating a particular concern comes down to chemistry. When cured meats hit high temperatures, the nitrites react with amino acids and produce N-nitrosamines. 2 of the most studied, NDMA and NDEA, both hold Group 2A probable carcinogen classifications. At MD Anderson Cancer Center, a large case control study with nearly 1,000 cases and 1,000 controls revealed that those consuming the highest amounts of NDEA face 2.28 times the risk of pancreatic cancer compared to the lowest intake group. Decades of mechanistic research back this up. Scientists have detected tobacco-specific nitrosamines in human pancreatic juice. For over 50 years, researchers have relied on nitrosamines to induce pancreatic cancer in laboratory animals. Yale's Harvey Risch published a landmark hypothesis in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute, identifying N-nitroso compounds as a central driver of pancreatic carcinogenesis. Beyond nitrosamines, high-temperature reheating also generates heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Researchers at MD Anderson found links between specific heterocyclic amines and pancreatic cancer risk, and the National Cancer Institute has noted that epidemiological studies connect these compounds to colorectal, pancreatic, and prostate cancer, though they add that population studies have not established a definitive link. And here is the part that keeps the science from being settled. A 2025 meta-analysis spanning 4.3 million participants and close to 14,000 pancreatic cancer cases found that processed red meat on its own showed no statistically significant association. Even with the strongest evidence category on this list, the data remains contradictory. The smartest approach is to cut back on bacon, hot dogs, and deli meat overall, which most health authorities already recommend. When you do reheat them, skip the frying pan and the grill. The National Cancer Institute advises against prolonged high-temperature cooking, recommends trimming charred portions, and supports marinating meat before cooking. One Kansas State University study showed that antioxidant-rich marinades slashed harmful compound formation by up to 87%. Section 4, Food Number 3, Reheated fried or starchy foods. French fries, potato chips, toast, and reheated potatoes all share a common chemical thread. Each one contains acrylamide, a compound that forms through the Maillard reaction, which occurs when an amino acid called asparagine meets certain sugars at temperatures above 120 degrees Celsius, roughly 248 degrees Fahrenheit. Swedish researchers first identified acrylamide in food back in April of 2002, and the announcement triggered international headlines. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classified it as Group 2A, a probable carcinogen. French fries alone carry concentrations ranging from 30 to 2,300 micrograms per kilogram, and the compound also shows up in chips, toast, and coffee. The backstory of that discovery is worth telling. A Swedish tunnel construction project in 1997 used an acrylamide-containing grouting agent, and nearby livestock fell ill. Workers at the site were tested for acrylamide blood markers, but what no one expected was that the unexposed control group also showed elevated levels. Investigators traced the contamination back to cooked food itself. As the FDA has noted, acrylamide has probably always been present in cooked foods, ever since humans first applied heat to starch. With all of that buildup, the pancreatic cancer evidence lands with a thud. Decades of research have produced consistently negative results. The PAN-C4 consortium pooled data from nearly 2,000 cases and over 4,000 controls and found nothing. The EPIC cohort followed more than 477,000 individuals to the same result. Japan's Public Health Center study tracked nearly 90,000 participants and 576 cases, finding no connection. An updated meta-analysis in the International Journal of Cancer confirmed the pattern. Some occupational studies did flag a suggestive excess of pancreatic cancer among workers with the highest cumulative acrylamide exposure, but a follow-up analysis found the trend disappeared after adjusting for smoking. A dietitian at MD Anderson Cancer Center put it plainly. Researchers have studied this for about 20 years now, and no definite link between acrylamide and cancer in people has been found. Animal studies did show a link, but those involved between 1,000 and 100,000 times the amount of acrylamide that a normal person would encounter in food. The American Cancer Society echoes that assessment, stating that reviews of human studies suggest dietary acrylamide is not likely related to risk for most common types of cancer. The FDA's official position mirrors both, noting no consistent epidemiological evidence connecting dietary acrylamide to cancer in humans. Sensible precautions still apply. When cooking potatoes, aim for golden yellow, not dark brown. Soaking raw potato slices in water for 15 to 30 minutes before cooking helps reduce acrylamide levels. Boiling and steaming produce far less than frying. Those recommendations come straight from the FDA's 2016 guidance document. Section 5. Food number 4. Reheated eggs and cholesterol-rich protein foods. Every time you reheat eggs or other cholesterol-rich foods, a process called cholesterol oxidation kicks in and produces compounds known as oxysterols. Research published in the Journal of the Science of Food and Agriculture measured higher levels of these oxidation products in fried eggs than in boiled or raw ones. Microwaving generated roughly twice the cholesterol oxidation compared to frying, which makes it the worst method for this particular issue. Laboratory studies describe oxysterols as cytotoxic, mutagenic, and potentially carcinogenic. One specific compound, 27-hydroxycholesterol, has been linked to estrogen receptor-positive breast cancer proliferation. But here is where honesty matters most. No study has connected cholesterol oxidation products from reheated eggs to pancreatic cancer. The concern rests on general toxicology, not cancer-specific epidemiology. A theoretical mechanism exists, but direct evidence linking this to the pancreas simply does not. Eggs remain safe to reheat as long as you bring them to an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit all the way through. One practical tip, though. Be cautious with hard-boiled eggs in the microwave because they can explode. Cutting them in half first or using a lower power setting solves that problem. Section 6. Food number 5. Reheated rice. This one may catch you off guard because the concern surrounding reheated rice has nothing to do with cancer at all. The actual danger comes from a bacterium called Bacillus cereus, and the risk is food poisoning, not malignancy. Bacillus cereus spores survive the cooking process. When cooked rice sits at room temperature, those spores germinate and release a heat-stable emetic toxin called cereulide, which reheating cannot destroy. 63,000 cases of foodborne illness caused by Bacillus cereus occur in the United States every year, according to the CDC. For adults 65 and older, foodborne illness hits harder and lands people in the hospital more often. Natural immune decline, reduced stomach acid, and slower digestion all contribute to that heightened vulnerability, which is why the CDC and FDA both stress that food safety becomes especially critical in this age group. And this is where the story takes a turn nobody expects. Cooling and reheating rice does not create cancer risk. It actually delivers a nutritional benefit. Research shows that cooled and reheated rice contains about 2.5 times more resistant starch than freshly cooked rice. Resistant starch functions as a prebiotic fiber, feeding beneficial gut bacteria and producing butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid that may protect against cancer rather than promote. One other thing worth clearing up. The term fried rice syndrome is misleading because Bacillus cereus grows on any cooked starchy food left at room temperature, not just rice. Pasta, potatoes, and other grains carry the same risk. And Clostridium perfringens, a different bacterium, actually causes about 15 times more foodborne illness cases than Bacillus cereus. Safe handling could not be simpler. Cool your rice within 1 hour by spreading it into shallow containers, then refrigerate it promptly. Reheat to 165 degrees Fahrenheit and never reheat it more than once. Those guidelines come from the UK Food Standards Agency, UW Medicine, and the Cleveland Clinic. Section 7. The bigger picture. What actually protects you? Let me step back and lay all 5 foods side by side. Reheated processed meats carry the strongest connection to pancreatic cancer on this list, though even that evidence remains inconsistent across studies. Reused cooking oils produce compounds with proven carcinogenic potential in the lab, but no human study has directly tied them to pancreatic cancer. Acrylamide in starchy foods has been under the microscope for over 20 years, and the human evidence keeps coming back negative. Cholesterol oxidation products from reheated eggs raise theoretical red flags without any pancreatic cancer data behind them. And reheated rice has zero cancer connection whatsoever because the real risk there is food poisoning. If your goal is to lower your actual pancreatic cancer risk, the evidence points much more firmly in other directions. Not smoking, maintaining a healthy weight, keeping diabetes and blood sugar under control, being aware of your family history. Those are the well-supported, agreed-upon risk factors that every major cancer organization stands behind. None of that means you should ignore how you handle food because the foodborne illness numbers are staggering. 48 million Americans develop food-related illness every year, which leads to 128,000 hospitalizations and 3,000 deaths. Older adults get hit the hardest. Research has shown that seniors often feel confident about food safety, while simultaneously being less likely to spot unsafe handling practices. The FDA and USDA guidelines apply to everyone, but they matter most after 65. Reheat all leftovers to 165 degrees Fahrenheit, and verify that with a food thermometer. Bring soups, sauces, and gravies to a full rolling boil. Get your leftovers into the refrigerator within 2 hours of cooking, or within 1 hour if the room temperature exceeds 90 degrees. Eat refrigerated leftovers within 3 to 4 days, and the FDA recommends reheating food only once. Skip the slow cooker for reheating because food lingers too long in the temperature danger zone. With microwaves, cover and rotate the food, then check the temperature in multiple spots to account for cold areas. One more thing that trips people up constantly. The sniff test does not work. Pathogenic bacteria leave no trace you can smell, see, or taste. The UK Food Standards Agency has confirmed that, and too many people learn it after they are already sick. Conclusion: 67,500 Americans will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer this year. Survival rates have barely moved. Wanting to do everything in your power to lower that risk is the right instinct. But doing everything in your power means directing your energy toward what actually works, not toward exaggerated claims. Not smoking, staying at a healthy weight, and managing diabetes sit at the top of the list. When it comes to diet, the World Cancer Research Fund found that body fatness remains the only convincing dietary risk factor, while everything else falls into the limited or suggestive range. That does not erase the science on reheated foods. Cutting back on reused cooking oils, eating less processed meat, and following proper food safety are all smart choices grounded in real evidence. They just are not guaranteed cancer preventions, and presenting them that way would be misleading. What carries a genuine guarantee is that proper food handling shields you from foodborne illness, a real and serious threat for adults over 65. Follow the guidelines we covered today. Use a thermometer. Refrigerate promptly. Finish your leftovers within 3 to 4 days, and focus your attention on the risk factors you can actually control. If this helped you, pass it along. Hit that subscribe button. We will see you in the next one.